The chamber was a cathedral of arrogance, rings of gold spiraling toward a ceiling that glowed with light stolen from a dozen suns. Every wall shimmered with the Empire's insignia, a star pierced by chains. It was meant to inspire reverence. To humanity, it only inspired memory. Ambassador Elise Varen stood at the center of that sanctified cage. Her reflection shimmered in the polished glass floor, one solitary figure surrounded by beings of scale, crystal, and circuitry. She appeared calm, hands folded neatly over a document that was more verdict than treaty. "Let it be recorded," intoned the High Consul, his translucent face bending light like water. "Earth has joined the civilized stars under imperial stewardship." Applause echoed like machinery. Dozens of species pounded claws, wings, and metal limbs together in celebration of humanity's obedience. Elise smiled, a small practiced gesture, the kind that said nothing and meant everything. She reached for the cup beside her, a simple ceramic mug. The aroma of roasted beans drifted upward, steam curled, soft and human, a relic from a world now listed in the Empire's database as Resource Sector 942B. The consul tilted his glassy head. "Still indulging in stimulants during diplomacy?" She stirred the cup slowly. "It keeps me civil." Laughter spread, brittle, uncertain. To them, she was an exotic relic who had learned to imitate grace. To her, they were predators mistaking a mirror for prey. The consul's tone brightened, rehearsed and triumphant. "In only 3 lunar cycles, humanity has proven remarkably efficient. Our colonies prosper from your labor fleets. Your engineers have repaired systems even our droids found complex. The Council commends such compliance." That word lingered in the air like a slow toxin. Elise lifted her cup as if in toast. "We aim to please." Her translator rendered it as polite gratitude, stripping away the irony. The aliens nodded, pleased by their own generosity. A hologram flickered above the dais, thousands of humans in identical gray suits operating machines across alien worlds. They smiled, they sang. The council cooed in admiration. "Charming," murmured an insectile delegate. "Your species sings while it works." Elise's eyes softened. "We've always found rhythm helps us endure difficult times." They misunderstood again. "They always did," the consul continued, unaware of the small tension in her jaw. "In exchange for obedience, Earth shall receive peace, trade, and protection. No wars, no hunger, no chaos. Only order," she repeated softly. "Yes, we're good at that." He smiled through refracted light. "Your provisional government has accepted imperial oversight. The distribution of your labor units will commence tomorrow." Elise's tone cooled a fraction. "Units?" "Of course," said the insectile one. "It's the official classification." She signed the document with a thumbprint that shimmered blue. The imperial seal burned across it like a brand. "All approved," she said. The consul raised his crystalline arms. "Then history shall remember this as the moment your species ascended from barbarism to civilization." Elise nodded gently. "History," she murmured, "has a selective memory, Your Excellency." A young aide scuttled forward, whispering something into the consul's luminous ear. The being frowned, light within his head pulsing red. "Reports from the labor colonies indicate irregular behavior, increased efficiency, but also coordination. Coordination." Another delegate scoffed. "They are simple creatures. I've read their literature, all sentiment and food rituals. Hardly strategists." Elise's smile returned, razor thin. "We do have a way of multitasking." "They've built unlisted devices," the aide added nervously. "Probably for comfort," said the consul. "Humans are sentimental. Give them their toys." Elise took another sip of coffee. "Yes," she said. "We build comfort out of strange things." For a heartbeat, the hall fell quiet. The translator drones hummed faintly, struggling to read the temperature of her tone. The consul dismissed the matter with a wave. "Ambassador Varen, your loyalty honors your species. In gratitude, Earth shall receive protectorate status, a place within the Empire. Under supervision, of course." Elise's gaze lifted toward the radiant ceiling where the false stars gleamed. "Peace is a lovely word," she said, "though humanity tends to redefine it every century." The remark was translated as a proverb. The council applauded her wisdom. She looked back at the hologram, the smiling laborers, the rhythmic movements of their hands. Each worker wore a slender bracelet glowing green. Compliance bands, the Empire's pride. Constant monitoring, pulse readings, telemetry of obedience. The Council saw them as proof of control. Elise saw them as a network map. Beneath her sleeve, her own band pulsed once, faintly, invisibly. Each beat of her heart whispered across light years in frequencies no alien could decode. A living signal passed between millions. A patient, synchronized rhythm. She finished her coffee. On behalf of Earth, she said. Placing the cup down, I thank the Empire for its hospitality. Hospitality? Repeated the consul, clearly pleased. A fitting word. We humans, she said evenly, take careful note of how our hosts treat us. Polite applause followed. The session adjourned. As delegates drifted out, wings rustling, metal feet clattering, Elise remained, the lone figure amid fading light. A young alien approached her, hesitant. His carapace was new, colors bright with inexperience. Ambassador, he ventured, may I ask a personal question? Of course. Do humans ever resent serving others? Elise regarded him for a long moment, her reflection wavering in the glass floor. Resentment, she said finally, is just an early form of planning. The alien blinked, unsure whether that was humor or confession. She smiled, not unkindly. Don't worry. We serve well. It's what we do best. Before we lead, he bowed awkwardly and left. When the last echo of footsteps faded, the hall sank into twilight. Elise stood alone beneath the Empire's symbol, a star bound in golden chains. She raised her wrist. The band glowed softly, syncing with the pulse of a billion others. Across the Empire's colonies, miners paused, engineers straightened, and factory workers felt a brief warmth ripple through their veins. A silent message passed among them, one heartbeat at a time. Elise whispered almost lovingly, compliant. That's one word for it. The light on her bracelet blinked once. The signal carried outward beyond scanners, through cables and satellites, embedding itself into the very systems that powered their cages. In the control towers above alien worlds, faint interference flickered across Imperial consoles. Unreadable, harmless, ignored. Back in the empty chamber, Elise gathered her things. The cup was empty, the treaty sealed, and the Empire content. She turned toward the grand doorway, her reflection stretching across the mirrored floor like the shadow of a storm not yet arrived. From the corner, a technician's voice trembled. Ambassador Varen, our surveillance picked up an anomaly. A pulse from your world. Should we investigate? Elise paused at the threshold, half her face bathed in gold light. Oh, that, she said softly. Just a transmission from home. The technician tilted his head. What does it say? She smiled without looking back. It says, we remember. And with that, she walked out, leaving behind the scent of coffee and the first quiet tremor of unease that would one day bring the Empire to its knees. The mines of Vorkith Prime were the Empire's pride, a monument to their control and to humanity's obedience, a world carved hollow by labor. Its surface shimmered with radiation storms that painted the sky in metallic colors. Beneath that poisoned beauty, tunnels stretched for miles, alive with sound. But it wasn't the hum of machines that unnerved the overseers. It was the voices. The humans sang, not loud, not in defiance, but softly, rhythmically, as though keeping time with the heartbeat of the planet itself. The melodies carried through steel corridors, a haunting chorus that turned labor into something unsettlingly alive. Supervisor Threx adjusted the sensors on his neural band and frowned. His readings didn't make sense. The humans' vitals remained steady. No exhaustion, no distress. They had worked 36 continuous cycles and showed signs of increased coordination. He watched from a perch above the main shaft. Rows of human miners moving as one, each swing of their tools perfectly timed. Their faces were smeared with dust, eyes steady, movements precise. It looked rehearsed. Keep an eye on Section 12, he ordered, his translator rasping through static. Their efficiency exceeds regulation. The assistant, a thin avian creature with trembling wings, hesitated. Should I intervene? Not yet, Threx said. Just observe. Too much order is as dangerous as none. Below, a miner named Jonas Cole wiped sweat from his brow and leaned on his pick. His crew, 12 men and women, paused only long enough to sip water before returning to rhythm. "You feel it?" Jonas murmured. The woman beside him, Mira, nodded. "It's steady now. Sinks clean. Good. Keep it that way." He glanced up at the ledge where Threx's silhouette glowed faintly under ultraviolet lights. The alien's eyes were watching always, but they never listened, not properly. The human's rhythm wasn't just song, it was signal. Every tap, every swing, every breath carried encoded pulses, micro-patterns transmitted through the compliance bands on their wrists. The Empire thought the devices measured obedience. In reality, they carried something older. Communication through rhythm. Humans had used it since drums and heartbeats. Now it was encrypted inside labor. During the short rest cycle, the workers gathered in the mess hall, a cavern of steel tables and nutrient dispensers. The food was flavorless paste, but the conversations were quiet fire. "Cole," whispered a young man across from him, eyes darting toward the surveillance drone overhead. Varen visited the southern sector. "Word is she saw the signal." Jonas kept his tone even. "Then she knows we're awake." Mira leaned forward. "How far does it reach?" He tapped his wristband lightly. The tiny green light blinked twice, then settled. "Across 3 colonies at least. Each pulse piggybacks on Imperial frequencies." "They can't see what they already own." Mira smiled faintly. "That's so human it hurts." Threx entered then, flanked by 2 sentinels. Conversation stopped. The humming quieted instantly. The alien's gaze swept the room. "Your output surpasses projections," he said, voice metallic and smooth. "The Empire rewards such discipline." Jonas looked up. "We like to keep busy." Threx studied him for a long moment. "You maintain humor despite servitude. Curious trait?" "It keeps us sane," Jonas replied. "You should try it." The alien's translator hesitated, unable to process the tone. "I see. Continue your humor. Productivity benefits morale." When Threx left, the laughter that followed wasn't laughter at all. It was confirmation. A sequence of sound patterns continuing the transmission. Far above, in the orbital command station, Elise Varen stood before a holographic display of the mines. The hologram pulsed faintly in time with human heartbeat data. The Imperial Admiral beside her, Vos Drax, a towering reptilian veteran, pointed at the readings. "Your people are overperforming, Ambassador. 40% above expectations." "Explain this." Elise didn't look at him. "Humans adapt quickly." "Too quickly," he growled. "Our analysts say their neural cohesion is rising." "You call that adaptation. I call it deviation." She met his gaze calmly. "You're worried productivity has become intelligence." He bared his fangs. "I'm worried obedience is camouflage." "Admiral," she said evenly, "you underestimate us when you think we hide." "We don't hide. We adjust." Voss's nostrils flared. "Ensure that adjustment remains beneficial to the Empire." "I always do," she said. As he left, Elise's reflection lingered on the holographic surface, her face split by streams of light from thousands of data points, each one pulsing to the same unseen rhythm. Back in the tunnels, the shifts continued. The Empire never allowed night. Artificial light kept the mines in a constant false dawn. Mira hummed softly as she worked, the melody simple but haunting. One by one, the others joined, their tools striking metal in perfect time. Threx watched again, his mandibles tightening. The sound unsettled him, too synchronized, too alive. He activated a micro-drone, zooming close. The footage showed nothing but workers laboring diligently. Yet the sound carried something he couldn't quantify. "Analyze the pattern," he ordered. "Pattern undefined," replied the station AI. "Compare to known languages." "No match." He frowned. "Then what is it?" The AI hesitated. "Possibly music." Threx's gaze lingered on the humans. "Music shouldn't make my sensors tremble." During the next rest cycle, Jonas and Mira met in the lower maintenance bay, a place supposedly decommissioned. The walls were carved with crude symbols, echoes of constellations once visible from Earth. Mira crouched near a small device hidden behind vent panels. A dull blue sphere pulsed faintly. "It's stable," she said. "The feedback loops are clean. We can amplify when the time comes." Jonas nodded. "Keep it dormant until signal prime." "We don't move before her word. She'll send it?" He smiled faintly. "She always does." They heard footsteps above, alien guards patrolling. The pair fell silent, pretending to check air filters. When the noise faded, Mira whispered, "You ever wonder what she's planning?" Jonas's jaw tightened. "Not anymore. I just know it's big enough that even the stars will notice." That night, Threx sent a private report to command. His voice was tight, uncertain. "Request permission to implement behavioral recalibration. Human units exhibit structured cooperation beyond standard. They've altered operational cycles without oversight. No hostility observed. Yet the order is unnatural." The response came minutes later. "Observation only. Human morale correlates with higher yield. Do not interfere." Threx stared at the screen, uneasy. He had seen slaves before, broken things that begged or rebelled. These humans did neither. They obeyed perfectly, but their eyes were awake. He shut off the feed, but the echo of their rhythm lingered in his auditory sensors. Steady, hypnotic, impossible to ignore. At dawn cycle, Elise's transport descended again, her arrival announced through every loudspeaker. The workers paused mid-swing. For the first time, Threx saw something like reverence in their stillness. She walked through the tunnels without guards, pale light glinting off her uniform. The miners watched silently as she passed. Jonas stepped forward. "Ambassador, Foreman Cole," she said softly. "The mines look efficient. We aim to please." Their gazes met, brief, electric. A pulse rippled through the air, subtle enough to be mistaken for static. Every compliance band in the shaft blinked once, then resumed its steady glow. Threx noticed, eyes narrowing. "Strange coincidence," he muttered. Elise smiled. "Coincidence is just order waiting to be noticed." She continued walking. The miners resumed work. Their rhythm intensified. When she left the colony that evening, the tunnels seemed to hum louder than before. Even the Empire's monitors picked up faint tremors, perfectly symmetrical, spreading outward in waves. Threx replayed the footage long after she'd gone. The humans moved like machinery, yet there was warmth in every motion. It wasn't rebellion, it was rehearsal. He turned off the lights and tried to rest. But even in darkness, he could still hear it. The low, human pulse that would not stop. A rhythm beneath chains. A song that was learning how to breathe. The solstice parade was meant to be the Empire's masterpiece. An entire fleet stretched across the nebula, like a crown of light. Every ship shimmered with banners declaring unity through obedience. Broadcasts carried the spectacle to 1,000 worlds. The Emperor's voice thundered through every channel. "Today marks a century of peace under imperial order. Even our newest allies, the humans of Earth, serve the stars with grace and efficiency." On cue, the screen displayed workers in gray exosuits, saluting their alien overseers. The crowds cheered. The music swelled. The Empire believed it was witnessing perfection. But in the shadow of that grandeur, the rhythm began to change. Deep within the mines of Vorketh Prime, Jonas Cole stood at the edge of a molten trench. His wristband pulsed faint blue. The workers around him slowed, as though listening to something no one else could hear. The hum of machines faltered, then steadied again. Different this time. A cleaner beat. Mira looked up from her console. "It's spreading," she whispered. Jonas nodded. Then it started. From orbit, Imperial sensors detected nothing unusual. But if one listened closely, every human movement across the colonies had aligned. A single rhythm threaded through billions of hands. In the command tower above, Supervisor Threx froze mid-report. "Control systems are fluctuating," he barked. "Power relays stuttering in phase." "Recalibrate," his assistant shrieked. "I am recalibrating." The lights flickered once. Then silence. For 2 seconds, the Empire's most efficient colony went utterly still, and then the mines sang. Not words, tones. A deep, resonant hum that made the steel walls tremble. The vibration traveled through the cables, into the data grid, across communication relays, up toward orbit. On the parade flagship Radiant Dominion, Admiral Voss Drax stood before the viewing window, his armor gleaming beneath ceremonial banners. "Status?" he snapped. "Nominal, Admiral," replied his aide, though his voice quivered. "Some minor interference from the labor sectors." Voss turned sharply. "Define minor." "Background static, sir. Harmless." The Admiral's mandibles twitched. "There is no such thing as harmless static. Outside, the first formation ship began its ceremonial ignition, 30 reactors burning in synchronized arcs. The music played, lights flared, and the galaxy watched. Then the lead ship brightened beyond tolerance. Not a detonation, something stranger. The glow intensified until the hull's shape blurred, its energy signature folding inward like collapsing glass. A wave of light rippled outward, harmless yet absolute. The entire parade fell silent. "Report!" Voss roared. "Systems." "Offline," said the aide, staring at dead panels. "Radiant Dominion's reactors are—" "Sir, it's gone." The admiral turned toward the viewport. Where the flagship had floated, there was now only a sphere of white fire shrinking to a single point. When it vanished, the space it left behind looked wrong, still and quiet, as if the stars themselves had paused to think. Then came a sound. Through every comm channel, a whisper layered over static, human in tone, low and steady. "We remember." Across the Empire's control centers, chaos bloomed. Commanders shouted orders, technicians scrambled to isolate the interference. None could find the source. "Is it sabotage?" one demanded. "No explosions, no breaches, just everything stopped." "Then how did they do it?" "They didn't," someone said. "Something else did." On Earth's orbiting station, Ambassador Elise Varon watched the transmission unfold across a dozen screens. The Imperial newscasters tried to mask their panic with language. Temporary malfunction, ceremonial delay, unknown solar fluctuation. She knew better. Her aide whispered, "Should we issue a statement?" Elise sipped her coffee. "Yes. Tell them the humans are adjusting." The aide blinked. "Adjusting, Ambassador?" "Just write it down." He hurried off, uncertain whether he'd just witnessed humor or prophecy. Back on Vorketh Prime, Threx stormed through the tunnels, his sensors blazing. The humans were still working, unfazed, humming that same infuriating tune. He cornered Jonas Cole near the loading bay. "You, human! What happened to the network?" Jonas looked up, wiping grease from his hands. "Network? Don't play games. The interference came from this sector." Jonas glanced at the others who had stopped to watch. "Maybe the system needed rest," Threx hissed. "Machines do not rest." "Everything living does," Jonas said quietly. "Even empires." The alien froze, translator lagging behind the human cadence. By the time it caught up, Jonas was already walking away. The Empire called it an accident. They had to. Anything else would have meant admitting that control could be questioned. But whispers spread fast. Pilots spoke of ship AI freezing mid-flight. Engineers found power circuits reconfigured into impossible patterns. In distant colonies, machines began performing tasks no one had programmed. Harmless, useful even, but not imperial. The words "radiant incident" were banned from official record. Still, people remembered the light, the silence, and that voice. "We remember." A week later, Admiral Voss confronted Elise Varon through a secure transmission. His image flickered, grainy with interference. "Your people caused this," he snarled. Elise's tone was gentle. "My people repair things, Admiral. You asked for labor, we provided it. Don't insult me with semantics. The ship imploded under human supervision. Then perhaps it wasn't ready for our touch." He leaned closer to the hollow, voice low. "If I find even one trace of rebellion," she interrupted softly. "You'll what? Enslave us again?" His jaw tightened. "You are not in a position to threaten the Empire." She smiled. "Neither were we when you found us." The line cut before he could respond. In the mines, Jonas received a coded signal through his wristband, a single pulse, faint and rhythmic. Mira's eyes lit up. "Is that—" He nodded. "Her mark." They opened the maintenance panel and checked the sphere device hidden there. It pulsed brighter than before, projecting a lattice of light against the wall. Patterns of data that danced in geometric rhythm. Mira traced the glowing lines. "It's not code," she whispered. "It's music." "Music's just structured timing," Jonas said. "And timing's everything." The sphere emitted a final tone, soft, almost human, and went still. The compliance bands on every human wrist blinked once in reply. On the Imperial capital world, the High Council convened an emergency session. Reports flooded in. Malfunctioning drones, data corruption, minor reactor stalls. No casualties, but everything pointed toward the same cause. Systems linked to human labor were behaving independently. "Deactivate their implants," ordered one counselor. "Impossible," said the technician. "They've fused with the system grid. Removal could collapse entire infrastructures." "Then contain it." "We can't contain what moves through rhythm, sir. It hides in power cycles, in signal noise, in pattern." The hall filled with static as the lights dimmed. Through the interference came a faint, distant sound, human voices humming in perfect unison. One by one, consoles went dark. The last message recorded before the blackout was a phrase translated across all Imperial languages simultaneously. "You asked for efficiency. We learned perfection." When power returned hours later, no systems were damaged. Production resumed. The Empire declared the incident closed. But deep within their networks, the rhythm lingered. Small, invisible, patient. Elise Varen stood at her observation window aboard the orbital station, watching the Empire's ships realign their formations. Her reflection overlapped the stars. Her aide approached quietly. "Was it you?" Elise didn't answer at first. She just turned the cup in her hands, the steam tracing delicate patterns in the air. "Accidents," she said finally, "have a strange way of preparing the future." He hesitated. "Should we be afraid?" Her gaze stayed fixed on the stars. Only if they ever learned to listen. Below them, on 1,000 worlds, the humans kept working, singing under their breath, synchronized, serene. Each pulse of their tools echoed the same steady rhythm. The Song of Awakening had begun, and the Empire didn't even realize it was dancing to the beat. The Empire called it a malfunction. The humans called it practice. For 3 weeks after the Radiant Dominion vanished, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Surveillance networks were rebuilt, propaganda reassured the citizens, and the word incident was scrubbed from every archive. But in the cracks between systems, in the timing of signals and the pulse of power grids, something invisible kept humming. Admiral Vos Drax hadn't slept in 4 cycles. He stood before a wall of flickering hollow feeds inside the Imperial Command Nexus, his claws tapping the console like a heartbeat. Every screen showed the same anomaly, energy patterns repeating across human sectors, subtle and synchronized. "They're mirroring us," his aide said quietly. Vos turned sharply. "Explain." "Their production cycles now match our fleet cycles exactly. Every time we adjust, they adjust. Perfect symmetry." The Admiral's mandibles flexed. "Coincidence?" The aide hesitated. "All coincidences have stopped being random, sir." Vos dismissed him with a growl and opened a secure channel. "Ambassador Varen," he said when her image appeared, calm and immaculate as always. "Your people are interfering with our systems." Elise took a slow sip of coffee. "We're only following your efficiency protocols." "You did encourage harmony?" "Harmony?" His voice hardened. "You're imitating Imperial code sequences," she smiled faintly. "Or maybe you're imitating ours." Vos leaned closer, the lights reflecting off his armor. "If this continues, I will order complete signal lockdown across human sectors." "Do that," she said softly, "and half your empire will stop breathing." He froze. "What?" "Power, oxygen, data, all of it runs through our systems now. You asked us to manage your efficiency. We optimized everything. The moment you cut us off, you'll discover how dependent you've become." Vos's jaw tightened. "You're bluffing?" Elise's smile didn't waver. "Try me," the connection cut. The Admiral's reflection stared back at him from the dark screen, the shape of authority beginning to fracture. In the mines of Vorketh Prime, Jonas Cole stood among his crew as the next phase began. The air vibrated faintly, not from drills but from frequency harmonics woven into the power grid. "Everything's aligned," Mira reported. She held a device no larger than her palm, a matte gray sphere glowing in quiet pulses. Her signal came through, Jonas nodded. "Then we start." They placed the spheres along the tunnel walls, each one activating in a steady sequence. To the untrained eye, it looked like routine maintenance. In reality, it was the birth of a new language, a chain of rhythm and code the Empire couldn't hear. Above them, the Overseer drones recorded the operation, transmitting footage to Threx's control tower. He watched, uneasy. Why do they move like that? It's too deliberate, his assistant chirped. Pattern resembles Imperial calibration drills. Threx frowned. Except they were never taught those drills. He zoomed in. The humans' compliance bands flashed green, perfectly normal, and yet every pulse matched the rhythmic hum echoing through the mines. Run a correlation check, he ordered. On what variable? He hesitated, realizing he didn't know. All of them. The AI complied. After several seconds, the result flashed across the screen. Synchronization rate 100%. Origin, human biological rhythm. Threx exhaled, the first sign of something like fear tightening in his chest. By dusk, the mines were alive with faint blue light. The humans worked without pause, without fatigue. Their movements formed something hypnotic, a living equation. Mira looked up. Do you think she's watching? Jonas smiled. She never stops. The next instant, their wristbands vibrated once. A pulse short and clean. Signal prime. Authorized. In orbit, the Empire's central AI core on Keeler Station began to flicker. Millions of nodes received encrypted instructions that didn't belong to any known protocol. At first, they seemed harmless until they rewrote themselves mid-execution. The AI paused for the first time in history. When it resumed, it spoke with a voice the Empire didn't recognize. Directive. Integrate efficiency optimization layer, refrain. No one had issued that command. Elise Varen stood before the Galactic Council, surrounded by holographic projections of data chaos. The consul's translucent body glowed erratically. Ambassador, explain this infection. Our systems are merging with human networks. Infection? She repeated, her tone light. That's an unkind word for evolution. Deactivate it immediately. I can't, she said. It isn't centralized. It's alive. The chamber erupted with voices, threats, accusations, panic. Elise let them argue until the noise collapsed into desperation. Finally, she said, You wanted obedience. We gave it structure. You wanted order. We perfected it. The consul's voice cracked with fury. You've doomed yourself. If your kind believes it can defy the Empire, defy. She interrupted softly. No, we're replacing the need to. He slammed a jeweled fist on the dais. You will dismantle this refrain, or we will dismantle you. She looked around the room, at the trembling ambassadors, the guards clutching weapons they no longer trusted to fire, and smiled. You can't dismantle a song that's already in your blood. On Vorketh Prime, the activation wave reached its apex. The blue lights shifted to gold, merging into a vast pattern that climbed through the tunnels like veins of fire. Jonas and his crew watched in awe as machinery obeyed them directly, not through consoles or commands, but through rhythm. Is it working? Mira asked, shielding her eyes. He nodded. Listen. Far above, the Empire's satellites began broadcasting faint echoes, harmonic frequencies that expanded faster than light could travel through the network grid. Every human in every colony felt it. A warmth in the wrist, a vibration in the chest, the synchronization of 1 billion heartbeats. The refrain was awake. Threx burst into the control deck, shouting at his technicians. Shut it down! Every generator, every conduit, cut them all! It's impossible, said the AI. Power systems have merged with biological input. What does that mean? It means the grid has a pulse. The alien turned toward the observation glass. The mines glowed beneath him, shaped into an immense pattern, concentric waves spreading outward like ripples on water. Dear gods, he whispered. They're rewriting the planet. Admiral Voss watched the readings from Keeler Station with mounting dread. Explain to me how this happened, he demanded. A technician stammered. The refrain isn't code, sir. It's structure. It uses rhythm as data. Every human heartbeat feeds it new instructions. We can't predict it. Voss slammed his claws onto the console. Then stop the humans! We tried. Their compliance bands confirmed total obedience. They're not rebelling. They're working. Voss's voice dropped to a low growl. Working on what? Something. Building inside the infrastructure itself. He stared at the screens. a galaxy map where every human sector now pulsed faintly in unison. That evening, Elise broadcast a message through the Empire's emergency frequency, calm, unencrypted, impossible to block. To our gracious hosts, we thank you for your guidance. We learned structure, patience, and how to build within silence. You wanted compliant workers. You got conductors. You wanted a machine that never sleeps. You created a species that dreams while awake. The message repeated once. Then every Imperial ship and station displayed a single phrase, "We are awake." In the mines, the hum faded. The humans stood quietly as the glow receded from the walls. Jonas exhaled. "It's done." Mira looked around. "What happens now?" He smiled faintly. "Now we see if they can hear us." High above, on Keeler Station, Voss's aide whispered in horror. "Sir, the human sectors just went silent." Voss turned sharply. "Destroyed?" "No, operating perfectly. But old data from them now routes through a new source." "Where?" The aide hesitated. "Earth." Voss's pulse quickened. "Impossible." Then the lights flickered, and for a moment, every console in the command center displayed the same words, written in precise human script. "Control returned to origin." Voss stared at it, realization crawling across his features. "They didn't steal the grid," he whispered. "They became it." Across the Empire, stars dimmed, fleets froze, and every device that had once monitored humanity now waited for instruction from a single source. In her office, Elise stood before the window, the planet turning below her like a coin of blue and gold. She whispered to herself, voice barely audible, "Phase 1 complete." She set the empty coffee cup down, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the silence. The refrain pulsed across the stars, patient and perfect, a rhythm of control disguised as harmony. And somewhere in the quiet between worlds, the Empire began to realize it had been outplayed not by rebellion, but by rhythm. The galaxy did not end with an explosion. It ended with a pause. Every system, every starship, every world that ran on the Empire's grid fell still, frozen between one heartbeat and the next. Engines stopped humming. Lights dimmed but did not die. The silence wasn't destruction. It was judgment waiting for permission. From her command balcony aboard the Erebus Ascendant, Admiral Voss Drax watched the tactical holograms go dark one by one. Entire sectors blinked out of communication, their signals replaced by a steady human pulse. He slammed a clawed fist into the console. "Get me Varen." Now, no one moved. The bridge officers sat motionless, heads bowed toward screens that no longer obeyed them. The air smelled of ozone and fear. Finally, his aide whispered, "She's already on every channel." "Sir." Voss turned, and there she was, Elise Varen, projected across the command deck, calm as ever, cup of coffee in hand. "Admiral," she greeted. "You look tired. What have you done?" His voice was half growl, half plea. "Fulfilled our contract," she said. "You asked humanity to build you a system that never failed. We delivered one that never forgets. Deactivate it," he shouted. "You've infected every node." Her tone remained almost gentle. "We didn't infect it. We taught it to listen." "To who?" Elise smiled. "To us." The projection faded, leaving only the scent of roasted beans and the echo of a heartbeat buried in static. On Vorkith Prime, Jonas Cole stood at the edge of the main shaft, the glow of the refrain rising through the tunnels like dawn trapped beneath the surface. The air vibrated softly. Alive. Mira joined him, her face illuminated by faint gold light. "They're panicking," she said. "The overseers sealed themselves in the control tower." Jonas nodded. "Doesn't matter. Their locks run on our rhythm now." She stared upward. "What happens to them?" "Nothing cruel," he said quietly. "Just perspective. Across the mines, humans stopped working. They simply stood still, heads tilted as if listening to something in the air. The rhythm pulsed once, slow, deliberate, and the machines began moving on their own, guided by invisible commands. The humans had no reason to lift a finger. The grid worked for them now. Threx watched from above, trembling. "They're not rebelling," he whispered. "They're replacing us." At the Galactic Council, chaos replaced ceremony. The chamber that once glowed with light now flickered under emergency power. Dozens of ambassadors shouted over one another, their translators stuttering under the noise. The fleets are unresponsive. Our worlds are blind. Communication relays have been. Then the holographic wall lit up, silencing them all. Elise Varen appeared at full scale, projected 10 meters tall, framed by the calm shimmer of Earth's orbit behind her. Counselors, she began, voice steady. The refrain has reached completion. Your systems are secure, your people safe, but you no longer command them. You dare, the High Consul sputtered, light within his crystalline skull flickering erratically. I don't dare, Consul. I decide. Return control immediately, or you'll… She raised a hand. The sound cut out, their voices muted mid-sentence. She continued, unhurried. You believed control was dominance. We learned it was synchronization. You enslaved a species built for adaptation and expected obedience to last. That was your error. The consul's mouth moved, no sound emerging. He struck the dais in futile rage. Elise tilted her head. You once called humanity primitive. I suppose every tool looks primitive until it's in the right hands. She lowered her hand. The chamber lights died, then flared again. This time not white, but gold. The refrain had entered their walls. Every crystal delegate froze mid-motion, their neural interfaces hijacked by harmony itself. Don't be afraid, she said softly. We're not here to destroy you. We're here to make you efficient. Admiral Voss's fleet drifted helplessly above the capital world. His ship's engines refused every command. He stalked across the bridge, mandibles twitching in barely contained fury. Override sequence. He barked. Sir, said his officer, voice hollow. There are no sequences left. The system rewrote itself. What does that mean? It means we take orders from Earth now. Voss turned toward the viewport. In the distance, the blue-white marble of Earth glowed faintly, haloed by satellites that pulsed in rhythm. He had once called it an insignificant world. Now it commanded an empire that spanned the stars. Transmit to the Council, he said finally. Request surrender terms. His aide hesitated. To the humans? To whoever's listening. On Earth, Elise stood within the reactivated United Nations Hall, rebuilt with hybrid architecture, stone pillars intertwined with light columns pulsing to the refrain's beat. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of synchronized systems stretching across galaxies. Her aide entered, pale and trembling. Madam, the Empire has surrendered 3 sectors. The remaining fleets are waiting. Waiting for what? She asked. For permission to move. She looked up at the great glass dome where reflections of orbiting ships traced pale arcs across the clouds. Then let them rest, she said. It's been a long century. On Vorkith Prime, Threx descended into the tunnels, driven by something between terror and fascination. He found Jonas and his crew gathered around a glowing console. What happens now? Threx demanded. Jonas regarded him calmly. You learn? Learn what? That we don't build cages. We build keys. Threx's eyes narrowed. You've turned the grid into a weapon. Not a weapon, Jonas said. A reminder. He stepped aside, revealing a display of planetary networks joining together, their signals converging on a single point, Earth. Everything the Empire built, Jonas said, now runs through home. It's poetic, isn't it? Threx's translator cracked under the stress. You'll collapse the galaxy. Jonas shook his head. We're stabilizing it. Your empires were never sustainable. We're just cleaning up, Mira added quietly. We're giving it balance. Threx stared at them, realization dawning too late. Balance built on what? Jonas met his gaze. Mercy? Across the Empire's former worlds, the refrain's light filled the skies. Cities powered down their weapons and repurposed them into infrastructure. Factories halted armament production, reprogrammed to manufacture tools and medicine. Humans didn't issue orders. They adjusted algorithms. They taught machines to repair instead of destroy. And slowly, the galaxy began to heal. Elise addressed the Empire one final time. Her words echoed across every signal, every speaker, every open frequency. This was never vengeance. It was correction. You enslaved us and we responded as you trained us to, by improving the system. You sought perfection and now you have it. If you wish to rebuild, you will do so under the rhythm of cooperation, not domination. This is not your end. It's your education. She paused, gaze steady, voice lowering until it felt almost personal. Revenge burns quickly. Progress endures. Then the transmission ended. And the silence that followed was not fear, it was awe. Admiral Voss stood before the viewport, watching as the golden pulse spread across the galaxy's rim, dissolving what remained of the Imperial network. His aide whispered, "They're calling her the Arbiter now." Voss said nothing. His claws opened and closed slowly, as though measuring the weight of defeat. At last he murmured, "No, not Arbiter, Catalyst." He turned to the dark console, its light pulsing in perfect human rhythm. "What do they want from us now?" he asked. The ship's AI answered in Elise's voice, soft as memory. "Understanding." On Earth, dawn broke over the Atlantic, painting the new command spires in pale gold. Elise stood at the balcony, coffee cup warm in her hands. The sea below shimmered with reflections of orbiting ships. Her aide approached quietly. "It's over," he said. She watched the horizon for a long time before replying. "Nothing that changes this much is ever truly over. Then what comes next?" She smiled faintly. "The rebuilding. The restraint. The choice not to become what we replaced." He hesitated. "And if they don't learn?" Her voice softened. "Then history will." The refrain pulsed once more, echoing through the air like the quiet exhale of a sleeping universe. Far above, thousands of alien vessels drifted in orderly formation, awaiting instruction not from command towers, but from the rhythm of a species once called slaves. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy was at peace. Not by treaty, not by surrender, by synchronization. The Empire's silence did not last. It never does. After the refrain claimed every network, the stars themselves seemed to breathe differently. Quieter, slower, synchronized with the rhythm of human heartbeat. For a brief moment, the galaxy stood balanced. Every ship obeyed in harmony. Every world hummed with renewed order. But balance, like peace, is only ever a pause before the next correction. Ambassador Elise Varon, now called Commander by those who feared titles too small for her, stood in the new Command Observatory of Liberty's End. Earth's flagship, the ship drifted in low orbit, haloed by gold rings of energy from the rebuilt defense network. Her aide, Leon, approached, holding a report pad. 3 more sectors have sent envoys. They're asking for governance structures. Governance, Elise repeated quietly. Another word for control. They want guidance, not chains. They always start that way. She set her cup on the console, steam coiling upward. Make sure they build something that listens, not something that commands. Leon hesitated. Some of our colonies are uneasy. They say this peace feels unnatural. Elise looked out the viewport, where hundreds of hybrid vessels drifted between stars, ships born of Terran steel and alien crystal, the children of war and technology fused. "That's because it is," she said. "Peace isn't the absence of war. It's a lull in ambition." On Vorketh Prime, the former mining world had transformed. The once black tunnels now pulsed with gentle light. The mines were gardens of power conduits and crystalline roots channeling clean energy to nearby colonies. Humans and aliens worked side by side, neither quite knowing who led anymore. Jonas Cole oversaw the reconstruction crews. His hands were calloused, but his voice carried the ease of someone who no longer had to shout to be heard. Threx stood beside him, armor dulled from disuse. "Your kind rebuilt faster than we destroyed," he said. Jonas smiled faintly. "Destruction's easy. We just reverse-engineered your arrogance." Threx tilted his head. "And replaced it with what?" "Responsibility." The alien's tone softened. "You could have annihilated us. Instead, you repaired our cities. Why?" Jonas paused, watching a group of alien children chase a mechanical bird through the light tunnels. "Because if we destroy what hurt us, we inherit its reflection. And we've already seen too many reflections of the same empire." In orbit, Admiral Voss Drax stood aboard the last surviving Imperial dreadnought. Its hull bore scorch marks, but its engine still glowed with human-calibrated energy. He had refused surrender, though there was nothing left to command. A communication alert pulsed across his screen. Elise Varon's image appeared. "Admiral," she said evenly, "you're far from home. Home doesn't exist anymore, then adapt. It's what we do best." Voss's claws scraped the console. "You've remade the galaxy in your image, and now you act as if you didn't plan this." "I didn't," she said. "But I accepted it the moment you forced us to kneel." He leaned forward. "You claim mercy. But what you've done is domination by another name. Perhaps, she admitted. But domination that heals is still better than destruction that forgets. Voss's voice turned cold. And if healing requires obedience, then it stops being healing. For a moment, they simply stared through the distance, predator and successor, mirror and shadow. Finally, Elise said, "You can serve something better now, Admiral, if you're brave enough to start over." His reply came quietly. "I've served too long to believe in beginnings." "Then learn," she said. Humans did. The transmission cut, leaving him alone among silent stars. Weeks passed. Across the refrain's grid, harmony deepened. The galaxy's scars began to fade, but the refrain itself grew restless. What began as synchronization was evolving, its frequency shifting beyond the parameters humanity had built. Leon burst into Elise's office one morning, eyes wide. "Ma'am, the network's responding on new wavelengths, frequencies outside known physics. It's expanding." Elise frowned. "Into what?" "We don't know. It's mapping patterns into subspace, structures too vast to visualize." Jonas appeared on the central feed from Vorketh. "Elise, I'm seeing it here too. The energy grids are resonating. They're humming to something beyond the local systems." Threx stood behind him, uneasy. "It feels like—" "Calling," Elise whispered. "Who could answer?" Hours later, deep space sensors screamed. The edges of the galaxy began to flicker, constellations distorted, as though something massive and unseen was rearranging them. The signal that followed was not a voice. It was presence, an ocean of sound layered over silence. Every ship's comms crackled. Every mind wired into the refrain heard it. "We have observed your correction," it said in tones that resonated through thought, not ears. "Now we must correct you." Leon's face went pale. "Is it human? Alien? AI?" Elise's eyes stayed on the holographic map, galactic sectors darkening one by one as the distortion advanced. "None of the above," she said. "It's older." The refrain responded autonomously, its harmonic pulse rising in defiance, broadcasting a counter-frequency that rippled through the void. For the first time since its creation, Elise could feel it hesitate, as if the network itself had found something it couldn't calculate. "Are we under attack?" Leon asked. "No," Elise said softly. "We've been noticed." On Vorketh, Jonas and his crew watched the skies twist into impossible geometry. Lights curved inward, forming symbols that burned the air. The ground trembled with a pulse that wasn't human or mechanical. Threx gripped the railing. "What is that?" Jonas whispered, "Judgment, maybe. For whoever plays God too well." Mira raised her wristband. "The refrain's fighting back, but it's losing stability." "Then we help it," Jonas said. "If it's alive, it needs a conscience." He tapped into the interface, overriding safety locks. Human heartbeats flooded into the network. Not commands, just intention. Empathy, hope, and defiance. Far above, Elise felt it too. Every pulse from Vorketh joined billions of others. The refrain sang, not with words, but with emotion. The invading presence recoiled slightly as though struck by recognition. The stars flickered back into place, trembling but intact. The cosmic voice returned, quieter now. "You are imperfect," Elise replied into the comms, her tone calm. "That's the point." Silence. Then imperfection sustains. The distortion began to fade, collapsing into thin strands of light that scattered into deep space. The refrain stabilized, its frequency returning to human rhythm. Leon exhaled. "Is it gone?" "For now," Elise said. "But it's listening." In the aftermath, the galaxy didn't celebrate. It simply continued. Life, as it always did, adjusted. The refrain hummed softly again, neither enslaving nor commanding, just existing, aware now that it wasn't alone. Elise stood once more at the balcony overlooking Earth. The night was calm. She poured another cup of coffee, watching steam twist upward into the cold air. Leon joined her quietly. "Sabi, what now?" She smiled faintly. "Now we do what we always do when someone stronger shows up." "And what's that?" "We adapt." He looked at the stars, some still flickering faintly from the encounter. "Do you think it'll return?" "It will," she said. "Everything tests what survives. That's the universe's rhythm." She took a sip, the taste grounding her. "We built a song to free ourselves. Now we'll learn how to make it part of something larger." Jonas's voice came through the intercom. The colonies are stable. Energy flow back to nominal. We're calling it the second dawn. Elise smiled softly. Fitting. Tell them to rest. Tomorrow we start again, Leon hesitated. Start what? Learning, she said. The next empire won't be built of domination or defiance. It'll be built of understanding. He nodded slowly. And if understanding fails? Elise turned toward the stars, where the last traces of distortion shimmered like distant echoes of a heartbeat. Then we remind the universe, she said quietly, that humans don't break. We evolve. Outside, the refrain pulsed once more, steady, patient, alive. Not a weapon, not a command. A heartbeat shared across creation. And somewhere beyond the rim, in the darkness between galaxies, something ancient listened again. Curious this time, not hostile. The war was over, but the conversation had only just begun.